Hey, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you letting us be here.
So we are joined with singer-songwriter Wade Oliver. He is on the air with me right now. Um, and I guess how did this interview came to be? Well, I made a post on the Diverse Kentucky Facebook group page about my radio
Uh-huh.
show and reached out to people. And you sent me an email saying I'm on board. Let me get a part of this, and here we
Right,
are. So shout out to the group. Just help get the
right, right.
word out on the Kentucky music scene. So shout out to them. Uh, I'm
Yep.
I'm friends with a variety of those people on there. So shout out to them. Um, so let's go and begin. And how did you get started as a music artist? How did it start off for you?
Well, funny story actually. When I was about 10, 11 years old, we was in math class, and they, back in those days, they had the intercoms where they come over and make announcements, and they said something about anybody that was interested in guitar lessons to come up to the auditorium, and I never had a guitar or anything. I was just trying to ditch math class and wound up going up there and fell in love with the guitar, and it just kind of started from there when I was about 10, 11 years old. So I've been picking and trying to sing ever since.
So what was the parents' reaction when they found out that you was into music? How do they react to your musical talents per se?
They were supportive. Mom especially, she's always been very supportive of pretty much anything that I tried to do. And my grandma, she had an old guitar that had belonged to my grandpa, and it was kind of in rough shape, but we got it and kind of got it fixed up, and some people we knew that was into music and kind of got me some strings on it and helped me learn how to string it and stuff like that, and started taking a few lessons. And she'd sit patiently while I'd sit there and try to pick out some notes and stuff sitting on the porch or back there in the room. And she never would holler at me and tell me to hush. She just let me pick till I got decent at it, I guess.
So, when you got started performing in front of people, obviously when people perform in front of an audience, people get the butterflies, people can get nervous, whatever
Hmm.
the case may be. Like, what was you like as a performer when you got started? Did you get hit with the butterflies? Are you still nervous to this day? Like, what was that whole atmosphere like when you got started performing in front of an
Yeah.
audience?
I guess the first time I performed, I think I was like 12, and we went to this big mall. They were having some kind of a talent, wasn't really a contest, but just kind of a talent show. And I didn't even sing at that point. I was just really learning to play the guitar a little bit, and I got up and just done a couple of instrumental songs. And yeah, I couldn't. At that point, I couldn't have told you who I was or where I was. It was just like one big blur. And but I guess the more you kept trying to do it, and uh, eventually got to, as I became into my teen years, I wouldn't hardly leave the house without my guitar. So it just developed with hanging out with friends and sitting around bonfires and picking more, I guess. So I kind of got used to being around people, and eventually it got easier. I still get certain places. I still get a little nervous, little butterflies. Like here a while back, we went down to the Bluebird a few times, and the first couple of times there, I was pretty nervous, but you have to just kind of swallow it down and keep going because if you get to thinking about it too much, you'll get the deer in the headlights there on stage, and then you really mess up then.
That is true. Like, things are not always gonna go according to plan.
Hmm.
Sometimes the microphone won't be as loud, or the speakers
Right.
won't be where it needs to be.
Hmm.
Whatever the case may be, you're gonna get hit with a curveball every now and then.
Exactly.
But it's how you react to it and how you move forward.
Hmm.
It's kind of like going through life. Like, things ain't gonna go according to plan. You either dwell on it or you move forward, and
Keep going. All right.
you just keep going. So
I
I
had an older guitar player tell me when I was pretty young that if it don't matter what happens when you're up on the stage, even if you mess up, you just keep going because it most of the time if you don't let on like anything happened, the audience won't really notice it. But if you start getting nervous and stopping and backing up, then they're gonna notice it, and then it's just gonna make it worse. So you just keep going like nothing happened and do better next time.
very very true. So I see that you released a record last year.
Hmm.
I've heard a couple songs in the weeks leading up to it. You got an interesting title for this record. Would you mind talking about the process of working on this record and what made you name the album that it is? It's interesting.
Yeah, you can't play country. Yeah, it was a 6-song EP we released last year, probably early fall, somewhere in there. And yeah, it started out as a song I wrote probably 5, 6 years ago, and it, I consider myself more of a traditional, I guess, outlawish style country music. And I guess some friends were kind of talking about how that seemed like country music has kind of changed through the years and went kind of a different direction. And I guess some of it, that's out there, it's not genuine. It's more for show. It's more dress up. And I just kind of got started on the process and the idea of, being country is not something you can pretend you are. It's a way of life, and it's not all these stereotypical cliches. It's actually it's a way of life to some people, and so that's kind of that song. You can't play country kind of addresses stuff like where our John Deere tractors, they ain't pretty and green. They're actually rusted and dirty because we use them working in the bean fields and stuff like that. So it just kind of all came together like that, and so I thought, well, that's kind of a catchy title. You can't play country, and I thought, well, that'd be a good title for the EP. And so I don't know, it just seemed to kind of fit with the other songs that they're on there, like Hillbilly Holler and Poor Man's Prayer. Just like, to me, it's like each song is a genuine story about some point of life. And so the whole title of You Can't Play Country is, it's like you can't pretend to be country. You either are or you're not.
That now that I think about it, that does make sense. It feels like it's like, I guess for some genres, like a lifestyle or whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
You gotta have it in you. You can't
Hmm.
either you have it or you don't. And
Right.
sometimes I guess some people want to over exaggerate, act up that. I guess as people in the hood like to say, some people be about that life, and
Right.
but when you get it up close to it, they'll be like, this person ain't what he or she cracked up to be.
Exactly.
So
And to me, yeah, you're right. It's the same in all genres, whether it be rap, whether it be country, rock and roll, R&B. If you've lived that life, then it's going to reflect in the songs you write and how you've lived it. And if, or as opposed to if it's something that you're just trying to pretend to be, to be noticed, to be part of something that you think is a bigger scene. So, if you ain't been there, anybody that really has been there, they're going to quickly know that you're not legit.
and I may not be looked at as a huge country music fan per se. I mean, I do listen to
Hmm.
country music. I listen to a variety of music. One of my
Right.
best friends on the local music scene just so happens to be a country music artist. I go to her shows. She's very talented. She
Hmm.
used to live in Lexington. She moved to Nashville, and me being a local music supporter, I was bummed that she moved, but I'm happy for her at the same time because she gets
Right.
to really take that next step in her career, and everybody knows that Nashville is the mecca of country music. So that's where
Exactly.
most people go to
Hmm.
wanting to take that next step. Um, and I noticed some change in country music for so many years now. It feels like
Hmm.
a lot of people have leaned towards the pop slash the country pop side of things, and at least
Right.
most of the artists that I've been listening to, you don't hear much of the traditional country artists, and
Right.
and you being a fan of music and a artist yourself, like how do you feel about how country music have changed throughout the years, and what do you think needs to be done in order to get back to where it needs to be, in your opinion, per se?
I think it's sad in a way, because it's a whole genre that I feel that at one time represented, a way of life for certain people. Uh, like blues, just take blues for example. Blues has been lived for years through experiences that people had, and country music I've always felt like was kind of the same way of, you know, mountain people. A lot of the country music everybody knows come out of the hills of the Kentucky, coal mining people, hardworking people, farming people, and and it just like that. Country music was songs about their way of life, and I think it's sad that that's kind of got washed away by tailgates and trucks and mud riding, and which I'm not saying that people that live out in the country don't do that, but there's more to life. There's a lot more to people's lives than just getting drunk sitting on a tailgate. People work hard for a living. People have struggles. They struggle to pay bills. They have love. They lose love. They have heartbreak, and it's not represented in the music that's out there anymore. And I, to me, the only way that's ever going to change is if people just knuckle down and start writing about things that's going on in their life again, and not just trying to pop it up to see how many times you can mention the tailgate or the pickup truck or the guitar on the beach or whatever, drinking the beer. It's more to being a country life than just drinking beer and partying on tailgate. It's like anybody else. It's hardworking people, and I think a lot of people are getting aggravated with that fact that they don't really have any. To me, music wasn't always an escape that I could go listen to, that I could relate to what they were saying. It's like somebody out there understood what I was going through, and they put it into a song, and it's almost like that's being lost, not just in country, but to me across all genres. It's like the reality of life has been lost, and it's all one big party.
I can understand that. One thing, me being a heavy hip hop guy, like one thing
Hmm.
is missing is substance. Talking
Right.
about a message,
Hmm.
real issues and things like that. And there are some artists that will do that, but most of the time
Hmm.
it's like jibber jabber or whatever.
Right.
And that's kind of the reason why I've leaned towards supporting local music for the last 4 to 5 years.
Hmm.
I've go to shows. I actually get to hear these musicians perform, and just just to feel what they coming from, and
Right.
and there's a lot of talented local musicians, and I
Hmm.
can try to encourage people to support local music, but it's up to them.
Right.
People complain about what's going on in mainstream music, but if people would just give local music artists a chance,
Hmm.
at least go to the show one time, and maybe they'll like what they'll see, and maybe
Exactly.
it will encourage them to go to more shows.
Right.
Because there's just so
Right.
many talented music artists, and I will say this to the quote unquote mainstream music listeners. All those artists that you listen to, they all started off as local acts
Exactly.
themselves.
Right.
They have to work their way to get to where
Hmm.
they are. Some got a lucky break and got it, and starting to blow up, while others it took a while. But local
Right.
music is the backbone of music, in my opinion, and I just wish people will support local music a little more.
Yeah, well, it's and so many of your independent artists are still, writing their own stuff and writing about their own experiences in life, and so you still get that purity, that rawness that I feel like is missing in more of the mainstream stuff. And yeah, if people get out and listen to it and support it more, and people keep writing what I call writing the truth. I think it could, I don't feel like this is the first time this happened. To me, it's like it happens, from time to time. It'll get real. It'll get, pop again, and it just kind of goes back and forth. But uh, that's one of the biggest things that I think that hurts a lot of times is so many times you go up there and you play, which it don't matter if it's to me if it's one person or if it's 1,000. I'm gonna give just as play just as hard as I can to. It don't matter how many people's there, but sometimes it can be discouraging when you got a gig going on and you're there and you sit there for 2-3 hours playing to an empty house. It's a little discouraging sometimes.
I can understand that, for sure. I seen artists up close go through that, and them giving it their all, giving it their heart and soul to it, and it feels like very few people will listen, and it's very
Hmm.
unfortunate. Um, and I guess I could say is, I mean, music has a way of changing lives. If it if
Hmm.
it if it helps at least one person, whether they
Right.
listening to it live or they listening to a song on the radio or through digital music, we're in a streaming area, obviously, then that people are on to something.
Right.
So it's definitely a grind. It's definitely something to go through. Obviously, it's not a walk in the
Right.
park. You're gonna go through ups and downs. You're gonna go through trials and tribulations, and
Right.
all you can do is go out there and perform, and what happens, happens. I guess.
Right. Well, I look at it, as if you love what you're doing, like and I do, I love it. I mean, so I can't really see me ever doing anything else. Uh, so my dedication is to keep going no matter what. I understand some people get in for a while and they get tired of it and they venture off into another dream or scenario. But there's a few out there that just keeps on grinding away, and I feel like eventually those are the one at some point their hard work pays off for them to some degree. And if you love what you do, and that's in anything, not just music, but anything you do. If you love what you're doing, you'll keep doing it, and eventually it'll reward you in some way. I feel like it will.
I truly agree with that. So do you have any upcoming shows, performances out there that your fans need to keep an eye on?
I've got some things coming up down here in the southern part of Kentucky. We've got something coming up next weekend at the Russellville Creamery, and then we got some gigs coming up in Bowling Green. And actually, we've got some stuff coming up in the Louisville areas, not too far away too. Uh, I haven't got my calendar in front of me right here to give out dates, but if anybody wants to follow us on our Facebook page, Wade Oliver, we keep it updated on there of all of our shows and times and stuff like that. And we're working on trying to get all over Kentucky, because we wanna get out there and play our music for anybody that wants to listen. And we're trying. We're venturing up into Lexington, Elizabethtown. I think we've got something coming up there pretty soon, and up in Louisville, and then down the edge of Tennessee too. So we try not to be limited as far as staying in one place. We get out and travel.
I do live in the Lexington area, so I'll definitely keep an eye on that for sure.
Well,
Um,
I appreciate it.
so the album, the EP, You Can't Say Country, which I must say probably one of the most interesting titles of a record that you're probably ever going to hear. It is available on all digital music platforms. It's on Spotify,
Hmm.
other Apple Music, iTunes, etc. He's on the social media feeds, Ray Oliver Music. Go